In new relationships, emotional or verbal abuse of any sort rarely begins with an explosion. More often, it starts with small, subtle patterns that we're trained to ignore, such as a cynical scoff or an indirect dismissal when you speak. Over time, that subtle disrespect blends into the background, and you stop noticing the way that it shapes our self-perceptions. You rationalize it by telling yourself and others that she's just stressed, she's tired, or emotional, or just being difficult today. But those excuses, both hers and yours, pile up over time, and before long, your silence is doing the dirty work for her. I'm Todd. I'm a psychologist and author who supports men, and thanks for watching. This video comes straight from Chapter 1, Part 2 of my book, Rules of Engagement. I'm releasing it in full video form, exactly as I wrote the book. All 14 chapters will be its own video playlist, and each of those with its corresponding 10 research and theory-driven topics. So check my channel for the playlist and subscribe with notifications to know when I drop each upcoming part of the 500-page book. So Dutton and Painter, back in the early 90s, described emotional abuse as a consistent pattern of psychological manipulation, along with devaluation and control. As such, it's rarely a one-off, a one-time incident, but more likely a repeated and systematic erosion of your reality. It doesn't just challenge your mood or your patience. In the process, it rewrites your sense of what real respect looks like. And the danger is not that small instances of subtle abuse wound or hurt you violently, but that they reshape you quietly. In dating and relationships, Walker's model of the abuse cycle, that's tension, explosion, reconciliation, is also evident when there's no shouting or no aggressive overtones. With emotional abuse, the explosion might be quiet, such as an icy shutdown or a verbal guilt trip. You think that abuse needs or requires screaming or bruises? Absolutely not. Sometimes it's ignored texts or her rewriting of the story like you're the villain. One minute she's punishing you with distance, and the next she's sweet as pie, pretending that nothing ever happened. So you start censoring yourself just to avoid setting her off. And that's how the cycle locks in. You feel off, but you're told that it's your fault. And oftentimes you withdraw to avoid her manipulation, and she labels that as evidence of your avoidance. Eventually, you start editing your own reactions to her subtleties just to keep the peace. All of this is psychological conditioning. And the truth is that she may not even know that she's doing it. She just knows that it gets her what she wants, so she keeps it up. And worse yet, it doesn't get better on its own. Nope. It sharpens, it cycles and recycles, and it deepens every time you pretend that it's not happening. You've been conditioned to take the hit, laugh it off, and keep moving. You've been told to man up, to avoid complaining, to just get your emotional ass handed to you while smiling. But research does not lie, and men are not immune to subtle abuse. For example, researchers Hines, Brown, and Dunning, back in the early 2000s, reported that men who experience even indirect disrespect show the same psychological symptoms as women. Those include anxiety, shame, detachment, and in some extreme cases, yes, even suicidal thoughts. The difference is that when men try to speak up, they're very often outright dismissed, maybe even ridiculed, because the system is not built to listen to a man who refuses to be disrespected, especially if it's done quietly. And Hines and colleagues also conveyed that men in particular are groomed to endure in silence because society has taught them that mistreatment of any magnitude doesn't count if it doesn't leave a shiner. But you do not need wealth to demonstrate the damage, and you don't need permission to acknowledge it. You only need to believe what you experience, not what you're told to accept. Ultimately, your masculine response to subtle forms of verbal and emotional abuse isn't toxic, and it shouldn't be embarrassing. It's structure. When she even subtly disrespects your boundaries or values and you calmly address it, she learns that there's a line. But if she crosses that line again and you say nothing, she learns that there are no penalties. Remember that your masculinity isn't measured by what you're willing to put up with. It's defined by what you don't allow. So if she's consistently belittling or manipulating, even slightly, to keep you off balance, then she's not coining inside jokes. She's building control. When you notice it, decide whether your integrity is worth more than the illusion of stability that your silence creates. And if it is, don't ask for clarity. Create it without apology. If emotional abuse has happened to you and you're willing to continue the relationship, use a statement like this. I'm not going to ignore the way you dismiss my values, even subtly, and I refuse to let it happen even one more time. Is that clear to you? If this is your experience and it's time to exit the relationship, here's a direct statement that might help. I refuse to stay in a relationship in which my confidence and my self-worth are being chipped away one little jab at a time. I'm done tolerating this cycle. This is over.